Greetings. This is Skylar Saunders Singh. What's current? Now, this is a not new story, but it's been updated. It's coming out of Louisville, Kentucky. A woman was chained to the floor like a dog. Uh, uh, like a collar and a chain was wrapped around her neck and was bolted to the floor. And she escaped. She was able to escape by way of kicking out a window. Everything else around the house was all barricaded, all locked up, all chained up, and um, had nails in it and screws. And she was able to kick out a window and scream and yell for her neighbors to free her. See, this situation, every time there's going to be a situation, this reminds me of different things like, cocaine washing up on the shores of Miami, and police saying there was over 200 kilos of cocaine worth, $100 million or something like that, in or more, 200 million, 500 million, and um, it just seems that it's going to happen. It's going to keep happening, just like almost a decade ago, I think it was. And what was it, 2000? Let me make sure. I'm making sure. Making 100% sure. This happened not too long ago. It was, I'm trying to get the year. Trying to get the year of this. What is the year? Okay, till it was over a year ago. May 6, 2013 was when these young females, Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus, were released or freed by a black man, a black hero, an American hero, Charles Ramsey. He was just minding his own business. Then he heard, he yells and shouts, and then he ran out the door. He was eating a McDonald's meal, and he had a white girl fall into his arms. And that was a red flag for him, because he knew a white woman falling into his arms of a black man meant something serious. So he had to act on it. So he was an American hero for helping to free these young women. But back to this case, it still says a woman. It doesn't give away her name. It says Louisville woman. Okay, here is her name. Okay, it's Jonna, I think is how you say it, or Jonah Wilson. That's her name. This is the recent case that she was locked to the floor in a similar situation, but the previous situation, the situation with the three females, they were raped. They were within custody for over almost a decade, or a little bit more than a decade. Yeah, even more than a decade, over a decade. They were locked in a house. So this is going on as I speak. There's some women or men maybe that are locked in somebody's basement, or locked in the attic, or locked somewhere in a house, and they are yearning to breathe free. And they're waiting for another Charles Ramsey to come through. Or in this case, in the Louisville, Kentucky case, the Jonah Wilson case, they just released the Bodycam. That's why this is breaking news today, because this happened about a week ago. All happened about a week ago. Okay, but seriously, she fought her way out. She kicked the window. She used her resources. The police first were contacted to address the situation. They went to the front door and the rear door. Then they found out she was in the upper level of the house. They acquired a ladder, and then I think the fire people actually came through. The firemen, it was men in this case. One just it was just men, and they came through and rescued her. They took her out. They made sure she was safe. And it has to happen right now as I'm speaking under the sound of my voice. Somewhere in America, and definitely somewhere in the world, there's a woman, that wants to be freed, that wants to be liberated. She was caught up in some mess, and usually a male in this case, his name is Moises May. He has been charged with, I will say, kidnapping, wanton endangerment, assault, terroristic threatening, and harassment. He has pleaded not guilty to all these charges. So it's very interesting. His next court date is Monday, August 28th. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with everything that goes down with that, because that's part of the story. That's part of the story. That's part of all the things that go into what it means to be in this game. That's part of the whole situation. You have these dedicated American heroes, one man, a civilian, and then you have police officers and firefighters that are, trained to deal with situations like this and to address topics like this, address the situation. They have every right to do so, but it just seems like another thing that comes up, a drug bust. They find all these kilos, they find money and guns and everything, and it's by the DEA, and it just keeps going. They'll get their bonuses, but it's not going to stop the flow of the drugs. There's going to be more demand for drugs. There's going to be more demand for using the drug, and they're just going to catch a small percentage of the actual drugs that are shipped into this country. And the same thing goes with kidnapping and being held captive, holding people captive. There has to be at least one out of the 300 plus, 330 plus million, or 330 million plus residents of this United States. There's got to be at least one or two more situations like this. At least one or two. I mean, I won't even say, there's probably hundreds or thousands. Somewhere in America, there's, either young boys or middle-aged women or younger women in captivity, locked up, maybe used for sex trafficking, something like that. And what's always great is the fact that there's a Charles Ramsey, there's a police department, there are firefighters. These are the men and women who, stand up to injustice, stand up to make sure, right is done by the people that are within these horrific situations. Now, I had it in my mind, Jonah Wilson. I don't know if she may have been capping in some cases. I don't know. I'm not sure. She wasn't captive for too long. She was captive for only 5 hours. May took her phone, so she couldn't call anybody. He didn't think everything through. He didn't think of, the fact that she could bust out a window. But did she set herself up? I don't want to speculate too hard. It seems like a situation where it's just, it's very delicate. It's very delicate, these situations, like I said, with, the case with the Ariel Castro kidnappings, they call it, with Michelle, Amanda, and Gina. They were kidnapped and raped. That's what he was charged with. Castro was charged with these ideas. He pled guilty to 937 criminal counts of rape, including kidnapping and aggravated murder, as a part of a plea bargain. I think it's because he killed. It was attempted murder. He tried to kill them, and aggravated murder because I think he tried to kill a baby. I think that was the case. Let me make sure. But he as part of a plea bargain, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years in prison without the possibility of parole. 1 month into his life sentence, Castro said, "You know what? I'm out. I don't know about the 1,000 years. Y'all can hold that. I'm getting out of here right now. He said, I'm committing suicide by hanging himself with a bed sheet in his prison cell. And that brings up situations to me. How is this even possible? This should be a monitor. He had to pay somebody off, allegedly. He had to say, this is somebody's, this is somebody else's bed sheets. I'm just using them, or something happened where he was able to, get into a mode of hanging himself. Like, aren't all the cells, watched 24 hours a day? Probably not. I doubt it highly. That apparently not in this situation, especially. And he just killed himself. He just committed suicide. Maybe that could be the same thing for May. If he gets all these charges levied against him, then he may have to bite the bullet as well. Might have to hold 500,000 a year, something like that. How many ever years you get, life imprisonment? I don't know. It's interesting to me. But, like I said, Jonah Wilson, she was a fighter, allegedly. I mean, I'm giving her the full benefit of the doubt that she rescued her, helped to in her own rescue. The cops came through, the fire people came through, firemen. They took an axe or a hatchet or something like that of that nature. Maybe it was an axe or some kind of heavy, tool, and it hit at the base of the chain, and then allowed her to get the chain from around her neck. So this just goes to show you how this goes on. I'm sure every day, and as I'm speaking, somewhere in America, somewhere in the world, especially, this is happening, and it just brings to my mind, the hero that is like Charles Ramsey and the police and the firefighters. They have a role. I mean, Charles Ramsey didn't have a role. he was just a dishwasher, down to the local restaurant. But he just took it upon himself because he had scruples, he had morals, he had the audacity to help save these young women who were white and Hispanic. And he knew what he was doing. He knew that he had to do something about this situation, because they were caught up in something over a decade. Over a decade, they were caught up in something that was devious and vicious and evil, and they had to be freed. And same thing with Jonah Wilson. I think she was in her captivity for 5 hours, and it just took time to her to think, hey, why not knock out these windows? He didn't get the windows, and not luckily, but fortunately, not by God's grace or anything out of that nature, she was able to escape. She was able to break from her bondage. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's something that we have to really keep our tabs on in our own neighborhoods. There are over, I think there's like 300 units in my neighborhood. Salute to Richard James chiming in. He's on the check-in. Tell 10 people about the show. I know you don't have money. Just share. Thanks. Salute to him. He's a productive member of society. He's a stockbroker. But definitely, since you don't have the pay, you're not going to be giving away too much money today. At least sit back and enjoy the conversation with myself. I'm just talking to myself right now. Just talking to a screen. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to myself. It's a beautiful situation. All right. But with these certain situations, these captivity situations, it's very intriguing because what you don't know, like I said, I think there's 300 units in my neighborhood. I don't know what's going on in those units. I give people the benefit of the doubt, say they're law-abiding, regular Americans, just living their life, living the American dream in the beautiful suburbs that I live in. Now, it could be something different, but for right now, it's all about, knowing that there is a possibility that somewhere in this neighborhood or somewhere in the next neighborhood, whatever it is, could be harboring, captives, could be holding on to young, innocent people, mostly women, could be men, not a far cry. Same thing happened with Dahmer. Dahmer was, taking in young black gay men, and he was seducing them. Then he ended up drilling holes in their head and eating their flesh. But no, I just smelled something funny coming from his room, but I didn't think nothing of it. Maybe he had spoiled garbage. I don't know. Meanwhile, he has a freezer full of body parts that are decomposing and producing a malodorous scent throughout the apartment complex where he lived. But it's just the same principle. This wasn't about cannibalism. He didn't each situation that I just described were about basically kidnapping and holding on under false imprisonment, and that's just the sad part. Okay, I didn't know that. See, my I would love to hear that where you found that statistic though. Give me the source and I'll look it up and I'll explain it. But it says Richard James says I read a statistic once that said 1 in 20 houses in the neighborhood, I don't know what neighborhood, has a captive in them. Please give me a source, give me some data, some information on that to back your claim up. I would love to see that as part of the truth, because it just seems like it is like that. Somewhere in America, that's how you get it. You don't know until you know, and if you know, you know. The news gets to it, later. They pick up on the story late. People, like I said, the three females in the Ariel Castro kidnappings, it was over a decade. Over a decade, they had to be in captivity. Just imagine that psychologically and physically. Think about what that has to do with your mind and your body. That's serious. And then with Jonah Wilson, at least she was clever enough to say, look, I'm getting out of here. Bust through this window. And it's not instinct. It's not automatic. It's the conceptual integration that is at work here. You don't have the basic instincts to survive because you have suicide. Just like Castro. He committed suicide. He didn't have the basic instinct to survive. He wanted to commit suicide, so he committed suicide. But these women wanted life. They wanted liberty. They wanted justice for their captors. They almost got justice. The three ladies, the three females who were escaped in the Ariel Castro one. Okay. Here goes Richard James. I grew up in Cabrini Green, Chicago projects. My dad lived in another area of Chicago for work, and once he had an encounter with John Wayne Gacy. This is amazing. This is okay. No one would have imagined what he was doing, and then he trails off. But John Wayne Gacy was one of the worst child killers of all time. But some say he was a lonesome F word and denial at the same time. And I'm not saying F-U-C-K. I'm saying the other F word. Now that person would be Mr. Troy Star Terrain. He said he was just another lonesome F word in denial. John Wayne Gacy. Hater nonetheless. He was a hater, but he wasn't a true hater. He wasn't a methodical, thought out, good looking guy, like hold on, let me see. Let me try to find his name. I can't think of his name right now, offhand. Hold on. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was was one of the haters of all time. He had a look about him, he had the charisma, and he just methodically went through his victims. That's how he got down. But John Wayne Gacy was like sloppy and literally a clown. So he didn't get down in that way. But Richard James says the man would dress as a clown and have his way with kids. That's what I just said. Yeah. Yeah, talking about being a clown. Yeah, that was the impetus for I think Stephen King's novel It and the subsequent movies that followed it. Yeah, John Wayne Gacy I think was the inspiration for all those vehicles. But I'm glad. Jonah Wilson is safe. She was talking to the local television news station. She was telling about her experience. She was choked up still. She was still, shaking visibly. She was trying to regain her composure. She was trying to show herself to be, of sound mind and sound judgment. I think she showed it to herself because, gratefully, these kidnappers and captors, once again, it's a question mark. I think it's a rhetorical question, but a question mark nonetheless. I would answer it if it weren't rhetorical. And if you put some money on it, Richard James, I will answer every question you have. Just put about $10 or $20 on it. We can be more than business associates. We can be friends. Friends to none of you, as Mr. Terrain says, though. But that's the case. That's what's so amazing. That's what's so mesmerizing. These cases. Serial killers aren't as much in abundance as they used to be because of Ring and iPhones and the proliferation of more guards and security. People say there's a downside of that because it's like 1984, Big Brother's watching. Well, Big Brother and Big Sister can watch. I say, as long as it's not in intimate moments or anything like that, or even spying on you on your in birthday parties or backyard cookouts or anything like that. That's what I'm saying for now. That's what I'm saying for how we have to conduct ourselves, have to address these different topics because they are very crucial. These are lives. These are young men and women's lives on the line. So it's very crucial and very important that we see the idea of being here as citizens of this United States of America and around the world. Because, like I said, I don't even know about news reports around the country that have captors. I'm sure there's places in Venezuela or Iran or somewhere like that, North Korea. They have to have different reports like that. You don't really get them like that, to see. But in the case of the Jonah Wilson, she had her wits about her. That's all I can say. And like I said, the body cam showed everything. There was a messy room. The room was all tore up. The sheets weren't were unkempt. The trash can, I think, was not dealt with. There was stuff all over the floor. He just had it in his mind. May just had it in his mind. Like saying, hey, she's gonna be here. I'm gonna keep her here. She's not gonna get out. I'm gonna just have my way with her, I guess. They had an argument. They started an argument earlier in the day, talking about how. Well, they didn't have an argument. I don't know. Maybe it was just a conversation. How she would clean up the house, and it got into a confrontation, an altercation, regarding him chaining her to the floor. Now I'm not sure. See, this again, I'm not sure what happened in between. Very few reports say what happened in between, where she, fought. I guess she tried to fight back, but was overrun by his strength. But that's where it is right now. I mean, Jonah Wilson is our own hero. Amongst the police and the firefighters. They acted swiftly. They acted without any recourse for doing something wrong or shooting a young black male in the back. Finally, or firemen committing arson just to burn the house down to get praise and say he's a hero. No, these are different cases. These are cases that are part of the norm, actually, where you have the police and the firefighters who are actually heroes, actually the ones that saved the day. And then you have citizen heroes like Charles Ramsey, who should have a statue erected in his honor. He should have a statue in Cleveland, Ohio, of him, standing up for these young women, being the one. Richard Jennings didn't have a question, but I'll read his comment. I'll read comments. He says, it's always the people you least expect when it comes to the people holding them captive. Exactly. They're probably the person that you see at the bank. You see him at the grocery store. You see him at the mall. You say, hey, how you doing? What's up? Hey, everything looks like it's sweet and peachy. But there's something devious and something vicious going on underneath. But they're just living their life out like it's regular and nothing is wrong. But in reality, they got either somebody alive or people alive in their captivity, or they got dead bodies stacked up in the backyard in a shed somewhere. It's what happens. It's what the truth is. It's reality. That's what the truth is. That's what's happening in these streets. That's what's happening to the people that are, within the confines or confinement, and they're just looking to be free again. That's all it is. And when it comes to the captors and the evil people, the evil men, and especially, but women as well, who commit these crimes, it just reminds me of different TVs and movie shows like Criminal Minds and various movies and other novels that make you wonder the psychology of these people. They're probably, that goes by the cliche now, hurt people. I mean, it's no excuse. I wouldn't say, don't throw them in jail, throw them in a psych ward or whatever. That's too good for them. And like I said, with Castro, he offed himself because he didn't have a chance. He had thousands of years in front of him. He had thousands of years. He had a life sentence plus 1,000 years. So, and no opportunity for parole. So what do you think he's going to do? Otherwise, he's looking at a whole lot of years. He's going to die in prison and have no chance of getting out. And he probably paid off a guard. He probably paid off somebody saying, look, Don't come near this beat for a little while. Don't come over here. Don't, watch, put the cameras over there on that side. And he just offed himself. But hey, Jonah Wilson, you are your own hero. The Louisville, let me see. It says I think LMPD means Louisville Metro. Yep, Louisville Metro Police Department and the Fire Department. They are the heroes in this case, and just like Charles Ramsey, a black man who definitely committed a great feat of heroism. And I think some of them were black, and Anthony. So there are two in this case. In the Joanna Wilson case, there were two Louisville Metro Police Second Division officers, Anthony Roach and Richard Isaacs, both black men, both men of color, who saved this white woman from her distress. So you have to give them all kinds of respect. All kinds of respect for that. All right, now this is what separates the non-fiction writers from the fiction writers. It's time again. It's time again. I have to talk about it. You know what I'm about to talk about. It's in the show title. I'm just testing out this. This is a research show, as Troy Star Terrain would say. He says skull again. Once again, it's not skull. It's air. Ruler of the kingdom of the air. It's picking up traction. Like I said, I was the _1 search topic with the title "Ruler of the Kingdom of the Air" because of Ralph Anthony Garcia's reading of Ruler of the Kingdom of the Air. And I'm very excited about that. I'm so excited because it's been almost a month since I wrote that story. And I've gained, some traction online with the story itself, but this audio is going to probably propel it for even more. I like the fact how I am searchable on Google. If you type my name in, it even comes up Ralph Reeds on that. So I'm going to say vocal. It still comes up. It's the second one. The link under the videos is the vocal link, the actual story. So I would appreciate it if you shared it. If you shared this story.
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not talking to you, Siri. All right. Okay, you're saying hyperbole there, Richard James. I think it's my greatest story ever written. I can't call it for American history or world literature. He's saying it's better than Harry Potter, better than Hunger Games, better than Blue's Clues, better than 50 Shades of Grey. Okay, now it appears as though you are trolling. You're going to say, I'm not trolling, but you're throwing in better, Blue's Clues with 50 Shades of Grey. Come on now. I was born yesterday, but I stayed up all night doing homework, okay? I might have been born yesterday, but I stayed up all night doing homework. So I can read, when somebody's trying to troll or not. And plus, those are longer works anyway, and a child's book. So you're definitely trolling now. I'm not even going to, entertain that. But the idea of this story, of this work, is so profound because it's not just mine. It's the world's. It's America's. America's especially. That's why I wanted to get the GAN. It's the first chapter of a great American novel. And it has to win. Has to win #1. I don't want to be, I don't want number one, I don't want to be known as a great writer because I got number one in a challenge. I want to get number one in a challenge because I'm a great writer. You have to understand it. That's the first-handed way of seeing things. The second-hander is just wants the title, wants the accolades, wants the achievements, just to show themselves that they can do it. But it's the work that has to be put in. It's the idea of accepting those accolades because of the work that was put in. That's what's most important. That's what has to be discussed. That's what has to be broken down. And it takes time. I have until the end of September to do this. I have all the way up until that moment where, September turns into October. September, I think September 30th. Yeah, is the last day of September. So I'm very aware of how fortunate I am, because I even think about stuff like just random stuff. Like I was looking up, almost half the population of the world are without toilets. Without toilets. Half the population. You believe that? It's true. And over 900 million defecate in places like fields and open spaces and just let it wash down into different levels. They don't have complete infrastructure for waste management. And I'm here, we're here as Americans, and we have to have the American exceptionalism, or we will revert to what 900 million people experience every day. Not waking up to a toilet, not waking up to a sanitary place to defecate or urinate. That's how serious this is. That's the challenge that we have to give ourselves, because I'm thinking about, I have so much to be, glad about, not thankful for in the sense of a mystical sense, like thank God, but I'm just, fortunate to be in a position to be in America where everything is basically there and we take it for granted. That's what this story is going to address. I might take it into more chapters, but the first chapter is, is the seed. I'm just giving you some of the roots now. I'm giving you the roots. We take everything for granted, and I don't know if that's healthy or not. I think that might be healthy in a way. Oh, you got a chap shirt? Can't have a polo shirt. But it's a shirt, and it's the same material. It's made by the same people, probably made in the same place, but we hate on each other. I don't think they do it consciously, or like they want to say, oh, I want to, hate on them to motivate them. I don't think people hate to motivate. I think people hate just to hate. Most people don't hate. I hate to motivate. I hate in order to motivate somebody to get in a better position, even better than myself. If you want to be in a better place than me, that's good. I will not challenge that. I will not look down my nose upon that. And with fiction, this is what's so beautiful. I think it was Aristotle. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. He said that drama or fiction is more important than history. And I'll paraphrase, the meaning, the reason, because you get a clear-eyed view of the totality and the understanding of individuals within a certain time frame, within a certain context, and it tells you what is going on at that time period or in that atmosphere, and it gives you a clear vision. Just like same thing with science fiction or fantasy fiction. It gives you a clue into human behavior, but with a guise of robots or aliens or another planet, another dimension. Those are all beneficial to us. They give us a chance to see what it means to be understood as human beings, what we can offer to each other. So I offer you my work, ruler of the kingdom of the air. It is something that is so crucial to put down on digital paper. That I had to do it. I had to make this story. This story is about right now. It's about yesteryear. It's about every year. It's about all time. Because it will deal, and it deals with the origins of man. It will deal with what people consider America to be, the great Satan, especially Iran. They say America is so evil. And why? Why? Explain why. There are philosophers and there are intellectuals that know better than I why they hate. But I'm just going to give you my obvious answer. It's because we're good. It's the hatred of good for being good. Because we have liberties. Because we have the rationality. Because we have so many freedoms. Because we have so many different ideas that propel us and create us in a different realm of understanding. That's what makes it so great. That's what makes America so wonderful and so powerful and notable and noble. It is a moral country. Just like we have a contradiction, we have a disagreement with Mr. Troy Star Terrain. I say that capitalism is moral. It's a system of justice. You get what you deserve. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are hundreds of billions of dollars richer than I am. Why is that? Because they put in the work. They put in the sweat equity. They timed it just right. They put in all the necessary ways of earning money, and they have that amount. Mark Zuckerberg, Michael Bloomberg, and so many others, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, these multi-billionaires, they just luck into money. What they want to do is have money ready for poor people to continue to be poor, because they're saying the giving pledge. And who is it giving to? They're going to give it to different organizations. What are they going to do? They're going to take the money and use it for themselves and other things. I'm being cynical, but that's what happens sometimes. But this story, encapsulates all those ideals, and it's just the first chapter, so it's difficult to say exactly where I'm going to go with it in the future. But I'm going to say that it is a work that definitely makes it possible for someone to understand what it means to be an American citizen. We are called the Great Satan. And what does Satan mean? Satan means, people just think, oh, Satan, no, that's bad. That's not good. It's not. It's a neutral term. It just means enemy. And what do people say in the Bible? Matthew 5:44, Luke 6:26. Love your enemy. Love your enemy. They said that in the Bible and in the scriptures. What's the point? What's the point of liking someone but not loving them? You value a person. You value that person in the same way. That's the difference. That's the different idea. That's what makes it a distinction. Well, I said 626. It's 627. Excuse me. Luke 6:27 and Matthew 5:44. I'll read it to you. But to you who hear I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. It's in the word. It's in the word of the Bible. Nobody believes that. Nobody. They want to say, I'll make my enemy my footstool. So you love your furniture that well? Your furniture is good. You make your enemy your footstool. Psalm 110, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. Make your enemies a footstool for your feet. So then you love your enemies and then you make them your footstool. Is that a good way to treat your enemies? To treat them as a footstool? Well, it's not literally the furniture, of course not. I'm not saying it's literal, but footstool in the sense of someone that you can rest upon and just act like is lower than you, is beneath you. In Matthew 5:44. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and the sins rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Love your enemies. This story has enemies already. But are they enemies? That's the question. We have to understand, we have to think about. We have to consider. Are they enemies? Is this one person in the story an enemy? Or are they someone that's leading a trail? Leading into something that's very profound? Leading into something that's very important to the main character? So far. Main character may switch up in the next few chapters if I continue the story. But I just wanted to give you a context to what this story is about, because people confuse it. Like the word Satan, it just means enemy. It just means adversary. Especially it means adversary, which adversary means enemy. So if America is the great adversary to places like Iran, what is it to other places? What is it to the other countries? Why is there, American dream? Why is there no Iranian dream? Is there one? Let me ask you, is there a Chinese dream? Is there a German dream? Maybe that might be a nightmare. Is there an Italian dream? Probably too expensive. You gotta pay a lot of money, for an Italian dream. They're like, designer. A French dream? Well, that just seems very risque. You say, I'm living my French dream, you might be talking about something else. Very scandalous, very sexualized. Does anybody care about a Canadian dream? Is there a Mexican dream? I'm going all over the country, the world, but American dream. And people say, oh, there's no such thing. And, oh, the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids in the car in the driveway and the chicken in the pot. That's the American dream. No, American dream is whatever you make it. If you want to live in a shack that's, $450 and you just pay for utilities, or you live in a hut, or you live in a mansion, you live in a multi-million-dollar mansion. That's part of the American dream. Or if you just want to roll around in a van, you want to live that van life. That's part of your purpose. That's part of who you are. That's what makes up who you want to be. That's the American dream. The American dream is being free to do whatever the hell you want to do without hurting anyone else. That's what an American dream means. That's what it all comes down to. It makes other countries want to be drained of their brains like they used to, and I don't know if they still do it today, but there used to be complete brain drains that, from England and Israel and Japan, China, all the smartest people, the masters and the PhDs that came over to America to find better work, better jobs, better lives, better women. Ain't nothing like an American woman. She's not submissive. She'll tell you right back to your face. She's not a doormat. She doesn't just get walked over. But that's what I'm conveying in my story. The American dream. It's part of the great American novel. The idea of what the American dream could possibly mean. What it was about. What it looks for. What it searches for. That pursuit. That's key to the Declaration of Independence. It didn't say we're guaranteed happiness. We're guaranteed life and liberty, but we're guaranteed the pursuit of happiness. The idea that we could have the chance to be happy. The chosen idealism, the decisive matter that encapsulates and shows just how powerful we really are as American citizens. That's why, that's people used to say, after September 11, 2001, that's why they hate us. That's why they hate us. That became a common phrase. That's why they hate us. They hate us because we were so wealthy. They hate us because we're so flamboyant. Because we're so aggressive. Because we're so, exceptional. That's why they hate us. No, they hate us because the last part, exceptional. They hate us because we're good. They hate us because we're noble beings, most of us. The irony of one of the ironies is the fact that we have the highest prison population in the world. But what do you say to that? The DEA, the FDA, all kinds of different rules and regulations stop people from growing, from going on and starting businesses, and so they resort to crime. That's the sad part. That's why you still have a mafia and a mob and gangs and the cartels. It's because there's a drug trade that's illicit. Make it free. Make it legal. Legalize it. Everything. Don't legalize weed and have dispensaries and you got to get your medical card and everything. Rid of all of that. Have cocaine, heroin, Xanny. Well, Xanny is free or not free, legal, but in doses. What else? Ecstasy, everything like that. Molly, all that. Free it up. Let people use them. 17 or older. All you gotta do is have your license or your state ID and some money. And you should be able to get something at the age of 17 years old. If you're able to put bootstraps on and go over to fight for your country at 17 years of age, you should be able to get high off some powder, some snowflake, some white girl. That should be the case. Richard James saying, now you're speaking my language. Hey, I'm just telling like it is. I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the facts. FDA is one of the most evil ideas ever thought about. The DEA stands with them. They're not about protecting values and lives. They're the exact opposite. And how many times do you hear about drunk drivers? We hear about them, but it's very few. How many times do you hear about alcohol-related deaths and murders or anything like that? There are some, but it's very few. That's why alcohol is still legal. It once was not. It was legal, then it wasn't illegal, then it was legal again. See, we're in an experiment. We're just in the American experiment. We're trying things out. We're testing things out. Sadly, people had to die. Lives had to be broken up. Completely had to be set asunder. That's the sadness, but it's the truth. That's what this story pertains to. That's its overarching theme. Plot theme is what Ayn Rand was saying. And I'm going to try to say this without being too pretentious. It's about, the plot theme is knowing self, by discovering self. I'm not good with plot theme. That's as best as I can explain it. Knowing self by discovering self. That is the plot theme. The main character, Green Stockwell, is searching. He is trying to find the understanding of his son. He wants to understand better what the nature of his son is. And that's what's so engrossing and so, I would say, impactful. The part of the story that makes the most sense. That's what I'm coming at. That's where I'm, trying to extend to. That's the part that I think is so crucial and significant on a level that I want people to understand what it really means to be, within this story, to wrap their head around it, especially with the audio. Ralph Reed's audio of the story is available on YouTube. Go check it out. Just put in Ruler of the Kingdom of the Air and it'll pop up the first search. Just put in Ruler of the Kingdom of the Air. I'm not getting money for it. I had to pay money for it. He got the cake from me. It was a one-time deal. He's not getting like royalties or anything from that. If I had more monies, I would probably make sure he did get that, but not at this point, not at this time. But it's very, it's very important for people to understand how this story means a lot to me, because in essence, it's part autobiography. Yes, that's a great American novel as well. Most of them are autobiographical. They have some kind of meaning behind them that's beyond, just the fictional ideas. They have relation to even if you switch if you include the parts of where you are from or where you are close to, that gives you a closeness to the material and to how your life overlaps, the reality of what's going on in the story. It gives you that chance to fully understand where you're coming from and why you're going there. Why are you doing? What is going on in the story? Why is this happening? Why are these set of events occurring? That it gives you the chance to answer those questions all by yourself. I don't need to hold your hand to read this story. No one needs to hold your hand. You can grasp these ideals, and with the same fervor and the same might as you would any other story. You would take into account all the different people that are, taking in this story throughout all these days that have passed. I think I'm on my 28th day since I've written this story. So it's almost a whole month for February, definitely. But, it hasn't been 30 days yet, but it's almost a whole month. And in that time, I've been able to, understand, see what other people say about it. People have left comments. People have left, thoughts on it. My favorite is well written but puzzling. I wonder why they didn't explain themselves why it's puzzling. It didn't give any indication on why it's puzzling, and they didn't go into detail. They didn't expound upon their response. But in all in all, is all we are, as late great Comaine said. I have to say I'm very fortunate, very happy at the fact that I can even show people what it means to be powerful, what it means to be mighty with the sword, with the pen instead of the sword. All right. I thank you for rolling with me. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Richard James, for being the only one in the chat. I appreciate the like. I appreciate all of this. Like I said, half the population of the world don't even have toilets, and we just take that for granted. So remember that as you say, your life is going terribly, or you're having a bad day. Think about how fortunate and how noble you are, and great you are, and exceptional you are as an American citizen. Thank you very much. Take care.